Hi, this is Amber.
And this is Lisa.
And you're listening to Unexplained Arkansas, a new podcast that explores urban legends, mysteries, and the unsolved in the natural state.
We're just two best friends discussing the unexplained in Arkansas.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unexplained Arkansas. This is Amber.
And this is Lisa. I feel like I'm losing my voice, but I'm not.
I think you are a little bit.
I am. I'm a little, it's just allergies, but yes.
That's what you said last time, that you gave me the flu.
That's, allegedly.
Allegedly. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Well, and I'm actually not only are we in different houses today, we're in different states. I'm in a different state.
Yes.
I'm traveling.
And I am trying to do this podcast very quietly because my kids are all in bed, and most usually my husband is here and helping me with all the kids while I do the podcast, but he's out of state. So we're going to see how this goes tonight.
Yeah, we're going to
So we're going to get yes. So we're going to get started. We are on part 3 of the Janie Ward case, and we won't go back and recap the other 2 episodes because you can go through those and listen. Go listen to the first 2 because there's a lot to this story, but we are right now at the point where we're talking about autopsies and things like that. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yes, and this is like a case review, and it's going to be ongoing. So, that's all I can say about.
So eventually we'll have a part 4 someday.
Oh, yeah. I think this could be like a part 8. No,
part
I don't
8.
know. Part, I'm still waiting for the state to send me, anyway, the second part of the investigative file. So,
oh, wow.
Yes. So, fun.
Yep. Fun.
Okay.
Fun stuff.
Fun stuff. So, but you're ready to dive in, girlfriend?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, we will get started. So, and kind of, again, we won't go back, but in part 2, we kind of ended with going through the investigator Beach's criminal investigation notes. And that time frame was ending September 21st of 1989. And so the initial incident with Janie and her passing was September 9th. So now we're discussing more into the crime scene search. And in that document, in the file, is from the same time period. So we're kind of starting at the same time period as we ended, but we're going further, okay? So this document states that the crime scene search was conducted in 2 different phases, and this was after the initial report of the victim's death, and this was reported by the Arkansas State Police Trooper Ross Dean and the Marshall police officer Dale England. And Dale England was the one that was conducting those interviews we went through with Investigator Beach. So Dale England responded to the scene to keep it secure, so they sent him out there. The scene was Janie Ward's residence where the party was located. So it states at 10:45 the night of September 9th, the officers obtained a consent from Jamie's dad, Steve, and Jamie, they both consented to search the residence and the surrounding area, and what they were looking for was liquor, contraband, etc. from the party. It did state...
And again, tell them Jamie with an M is Janie with an N's cousin.
Yes, second
I bet
cousin
that was very confusing for their family.
Yes. Evidently, according to Jamie in his interviews, he was second cousins with Janie. And we did have a whole lot of names consistent in the file. So so it gets very confusing. So the investigator, the form states the investigator Beach returned to the crime scene like the next morning at 4 a.m. So he was still working to obtain measurements. They state the crime scene was the yard of the Ward residence located on the Zach Ridge Road in Searcy County. The report gives directions to the home, so I'm not going to go into, like, it literally broke down every single turn from the point of the sheriff's office there in Marshall, but it took about 4.5 miles. So basically the house was 4.5 miles away from town, if that gives anybody some idea of how long, it would have taken. The report also mentions the crime scene diagrams, and I will post these when I get a chance, because we did post some other mapping and locations and such, and then also the identity of the items seized and recovered. So that's what the diagrams were covering. The items confiscated noted that it was 1 keg pump, 3 ashtrays, 1 plastic bowl, and marijuana cigarette butts. So these items were sent to the state crime lab and also to the sheriff's office in Searcy County there. On the back side of the report, it was outlining confiscated items as well, and it does give a summary of events on Saturday the 9th. And it just mentioned the officer received the call that the Searcy County ambulance was located at the Searcy County Bank parking lot with an unattended death. Upon arriving, there was a white female lying in the back of a pickup truck. The truck is described in the incident report as a 1983 black and silver Chevrolet parked in the parking lot. It said that the criminal investigator and the crime lab were notified to respond to the sheriff's office in Searcy County, and the victim was transported to Kaufman's funeral home. I don't know if you remember this from the other one, but there were other notes in the file that mentioned it was at Trump's funeral home, so I don't know what the discrepancy was there, but this one stated it was a Kaufman's funeral home. That was where the victim was transported, and the pickup was towed to the sheriff's office. The officer went to the Steve Ward residence at Zach, Arkansas, it states, to secure the scene of the incident until the investigators arrived. Consent to search and signed items confiscated. So behind this report that I just read is a state crime lab evidence submission form that was filled out by Investigator Beach, and it did list the items as, and this was what was going like to the state. It's mentioned body and clothing of the victim, and then 1 bagged plastic bowl containing orange peelings, a shot glass, a plastic wrapper, and liquid residue. So those were 2 items that were mentioned. There was also 1 bagged bar keg pump, 1 bagged plastic bag containing partially smoked hand-rolled cigarettes, seeds, and it really was hard to read, but it was like a vegetable material was also sent, and then 1 bagged wet sheet. So these were the items that were all in, like, I guess, part of Janie's body and part of the whole scene at whenever they came upon the truck in Marshall at the bank parking lot. It did say Beach also made note of the type of analysis required of what they were asking the medical examiner. They were asking the medical examiner to examine the body and submitted articles with further exam of seized and submitted items by drug and trace with any other testing that was deemed appropriate. The summary states the victim reportedly fell backwards off a porch at a party. So Beach made a note when he sent all these items to the state crime lab that he wanted all of this analyzed. On the back of this form that he sent, it did outline the clothing as 1 pair of shoes, 1 pair of blue jeans, and 1 shirt. And this was all dated September 10th of 1989. In the file, there are multiple sworn statement follow-ups with some of the partygoers. And I'll kind of summarize these because I'm not going to outline these again because these were already outlined. But these were follow-ups. And these were all dated October 19th. So I'm kind of going in a date sequence here. But October 19th, so about a month later, Investigator Beach asked the people kind of questions. And he was kind of trying to hone in and kind of talk about their original statements. He was really trying to find out more about the liquor and the marijuana, and if there were any fights, and how Janie was acting, and if there was anyone fighting at all. And this kind of questioning was what he was honing in on at that time. And Jason, there was a Jason person that was mentioned. He stated that Investigator Beach was trying to nail down that Jason was at the liquor store with Jamie and Gary being the person who purchased the liquor. Jason answered questions and said basically there was not a fight. He wasn't aware of any issues with Janie. He kind of reiterated that when he heard she had died, people were telling him that they thought she died of an overdose, and the fruit and like it said, the fruit and the alcohol or falling and breaking neck were the reasons stated. So this was what was going around to him, like an overdose, the fruit soaked in the alcohol, or falling and breaking her neck is kind of what people were saying at that time. And again, this had been a month since they had talked to him and a month since she had passed. Janie Ward, his follow-up, his biggest thing in his statements that kind of stood out was when he was asked what Janie was wearing, he said a t-shirt. And he also reiterated how upset he was and that she was his cousin and he wanted to know what happened to her. So everything in his follow-up questioning was pretty much the same as before. Ron, who was the person that drove her to the party and drove her to the bank parking lot, Ron owned up in his follow-up statement that there was marijuana at this party. That was not something that people were owning up to on the first time around, and that Janie got along with everyone in his opinion. He did not see anything going on with Janie whatsoever. She wasn't, and he also mentioned she didn't look visibly hurt by the fall. He did kind of check her, and he just mentioned that there was zero blood, zero fighting, nobody upset, just along the lines, because you can kind of tell the police are hearing all kinds of stuff on the street. So they're trying to narrow down with these witness statements.
So what they basically were told is that she was just standing there and suddenly fell backwards.
Yes, like the people that actually, and you can see, it kind of mentions later on, they were kind of wanting to follow up with people that actually saw her fall or had anything to do with transporting her, like anything to do with that kind of thing. And obviously with Jamie, because he was, the party host and such. But yes, I mean, everybody was consistent with the fact that she kind of looked like she passed out, and everybody felt like she passed out, but the people that saw her fall felt like she was out of it when she fell. So it's all, yes, very, very along the same lines. It does say this person's legal name, I guess, was Daniel, but he goes by Gail. He just reiterated about Janie being in a good mood, not fighting. When all the panic to leave took place, Janie was being loaded into the back of the truck. He stated that Jamie Ward just appeared to be panicked and in shock. So everybody was just kind of panicking because it was just chaos because of the police coming. Kim, who was the friend of Janie's that, rode to the party, got her to the party with Ron, and then went in the truck with her. In her interview, she owned up the second time in this interview to smoking marijuana. So that was not mentioned in her first interview. The kids were very scared of being, and again, I said this before, it's very interesting to me, Janie's dead. This is a big issue, and they're concerned about being caught with marijuana. So they're not really getting, they're just kids. She did mention that Janie's t-shirt, she stated, was white. And everybody has just mentioned a t-shirt. It was a band shirt. And the Leslie that had let Janie borrow the t-shirt said it was black. But it's just interesting that in this statement, either whatever her statement was typed up as was wrong, or she just remembered wrong. But it's amazing how, like, your mind's eye can remember something different. You know what I'm saying? Like in my mind's eye, you're blonde.
Yeah,
like your
that's
hair
what
is
I
blonde.
would. You always say that because I was blonde for a long time.
Like whenever, I mean, that's just like, yeah, to me, you're blonde. So if someone asks me, like if something happened to you and they're like, what did Amber look like? I'm like, oh, she was blonde. And
Well,
and they're
if you're
probably
going
gonna
back
be
to
like,
the late 90s, then I was tall and
That's-
blonde and thin. So nothing like I look now.
whatever. Well, it would be interesting to just hear. I guess that's why eyewitness statements are sometimes, not really, not to say they're just not looked on very closely sometimes because you can just remember things wrong. Remember My Cousin Vinny, that movie? Yeah. So sometimes things are just remembered wrong. But it does go into Gary, who, they did read, is in his second interview, they did read his rights because he was of age and he was the one that purchased the liquor. And he just mentioned that he was friends with Janie and that she drank typically but didn't do drugs. And he said Ron had called him and had been like, and he's talking about Ron Ward here, Janie's father. He just mentioned to Investigator Beach in this follow-up that Ron had been calling him and harassing him, and the police mentioned to him that he could press charges against Ron, but he stated that he did not want to because Ron Ward was dangerous, and he considered them friends, but Ron was also going up to evidently Gary's mom's work to harass her. And the police said that, the family was very distraught, of course, over what was going on. And that was what was pushing their behavior. So at this point...
What do you mean by harassing?
So that's all he mentioned. In his statement that the police took, he just mentioned was calling and harassing him about, it doesn't state specifically like what Ron was saying or if Ron was trying to blame Gary for what happened to Janie. I don't know. It does not state anything other than Gary felt like Ron was calling him and harassing him. And then Ron was going up to his mother's work. So, yeah. So I don't know what that was about, but it was interesting that he said Ron Ward was dangerous.
After all this happened, did this start going on?
It doesn't state, but this interview was a month after the incident.
Okay.
So within that month, I think there was from what we'll get into, there were a lot of rumors floating around. Town, of course, is a very small town. A lot of the people are related in this town. I think we're kind of used to that in White County. You're kind of related to a lot of people.
I'm related to everyone here, right? Well, I mean, that's kind of an Arkansas thing, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, I believe so too. And even like, I feel like I'm a transplant, but my mother, her dad's family, like she was a McKay. And so if you were a McKay that was from the Romance area, you're probably related to me. So distantly, I guess. Distantly. So anywho, so yes, so that came about from Gary's statement to Investigator Beach. On this same day as these sworn statements were happening, Investigator Beach had typed up his investigation notes to the file, and he states that afternoon around 1, that Ron Ward came by the sheriff, and Ron is Janie's mother, came by the sheriff's department requesting to speak to him. Ron had some Polaroids displayed of Janie, and he was pointing out what he referred to as her having a black eye and a cut on top of one of her ears.
Now, where did he get these Polaroids?
I do not know. It does not state where he received these. Now, he does mention later on that he had some from the medical examiner's office, like some that he had been given, and I think they had taken pictures. From what I had read, they had taken pictures at her funeral as well. So, but he just mentioned that, yes, that she had what he was pointing out.
Did you read how long between the death and the actual funeral service? How many days between?
I believe it was just a few days between them. So this was on a Saturday. I want to say by the Thursday was her funeral. Like the following week was her actual funeral, from what I remember in the file. and not in the file because her funeral wasn't mentioned in the file, but it was, I want to say, from other articles that I had read. Now it does say, okay, sorry. He mentioned that there was a dark line around the victim's right eye and a small mark on one of her ears. Beach displayed to Ron one of the photographs taken of Janie from the medical examiner's office and explained to Ron that there would have been post-mortem changes in Janie's body, and that could account for some of the marks around her eyes. So that's what he was trying to explain. And Ron looked at the photograph of Janie and said that the t-shirt she was wearing in the photograph was not the same one as he had seen her wearing that night. Ron stated he remembered Janie wearing a blue and white shirt, and this is when he's seen her at the funeral home. Okay, keep that in mind. So he's remembering that blue and white shirt, and that Janie didn't own a t-shirt like the one she was wearing in the photograph from the medical examiner. And remember, so he's thinking in his mind's eye that she is wearing the same outfit he saw her in Friday morning. Remember, that was the last time he saw her before she went to school.
Right.
Yes. So Beach explained to Ron that the photographs taken by the authorities did show Janie in the same t-shirt, and that Beach himself viewed Janie's body at the funeral home before she was transported to Little Rock, and that she was wearing that same t-shirt. So he's trying to explain the t-shirt bit, but Ron is stating to him that he remembers Janie wearing the blue and white striped shirt. Ron went on to say that he didn't think so about the clothing, but he admitted to, Beach that he might have been in shock at the time. So he did admit that. He's saying, okay, I don't think you're right about these clothing, but I could have been in shock. And I think, if he was in shock, he was devastated. In his mind's eye, she was wearing what she wore the last time he saw her alive. That to me makes sense.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah. If that's what he is feeling, but everybody else is seeing this band t-shirt, and we know that Leslie loaned her, a top. And this is 2 days later, basically. So Beach told Ron that an interview had been conducted by a friend of Janie's whom Janie had spent the night with that said that she had let Janie borrow that same t-shirt to wear to the party. So he was just trying to kind of set Ron right on this fact. Additionally, Ron began talking about different individuals with whom Janie had reportedly had issues with at school. He referred to 4 names of girls, a few that were actually at the party. People, and I'm not going to outline those names, people in town had told him that one girl had made a statement at school about Janie that she was, she was one down. So they had kind of like she had gotten Janie, like one was down or something. And Ron had no explanation of what problem could be between Janie and these girls. Like, he didn't state anything except to say that one of the girls, he himself had had issues with one of the girls' fathers over a bank loan. So evidently he had some type of financial something with one of the girls' fathers. Again, small town. So small town, where everybody's kind of knowing each other's business. Ron evidently had dealings with everybody in town if he wasn't related to them. So.
Sounds like it.
Sorry. Did you like that cough? Sorry. I'm still here. Still on the allergies, not anything more. Okay. So Ron also said that he and his family had been receiving threatening phone calls to the effect of the caller making references to Ron about how he has other children and that those other children had to go to school and that he better watch out, etc. Beach asked Ron if he had any...
That's terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So this was according to Ron that... So So at this point, we have two people saying that they're being harassed. One being Gary, and then by Ron, and then Ron saying that he had received these phone calls. Beach asked Ron if he had any knowledge on who would be making the calls, and he said that he didn't know, but one was a female voice. Then Ron told Beach he felt like Janie was beaten to death, and Ron asked Beach's opinion. Beach just told Ron that there was nothing from the eyewitness statements nor from the medical's office to indicate that she was beaten, and everyone said that zero violence had taken, place, like no one had mentioned any type of fighting going on or anything. So Ron's just indicating that that's what he's hearing. Ron gave Beach a list of names of people that he was told were at the party, and Beach read through them, and they went through them and mentioned that all the people on the list had been interviewed already, and that there were still some sworn statements happening, because remember, this was all kind of going on the same day, and this was just a step in the whole investigation. Beach told Ron once the investigation was completed that the prosecutor's office would have to authorize Ron to receive any type of information, okay? So they would be communicating with him. Beach notes at 1:45 that same day, and this would be the afternoon, he met with the deputy prosecuting attorney. Their last name was Conway. They discussed the sworn statements conducted, that there was no new information was obtained concerning the fall, injury, or death of the victim. It was determined that there was some money obtained for the party by Janie Ward and was furnished to Gary to purchase the alcohols. And it was determined Gary, Jamie, and Jason, this was kind of a summary that he typed in. Gary, Jamie, and Jason went to the liquor store at Big Flat, wherever that is, and did obtain the alcohol for the party. So I think he was just trying to outline just some facts there. Beach and another investigator, a person named Lafferty, came back to Searcy County and wrote up notes, and this date was November 8th. So we're looking at about 2-3 weeks later. Beach noted he was trying to set up witnesses to go out to Janie's house because he wanted to use a dummy to recreate the scene and with these witnesses, and then he wanted to videotape it so then he could show it to Dr. Malik. In the meantime, Gary's mother, Virginia, came by and talked to Beach. Like, she came by when he comes, he sets up office at the sheriff's office, and discussed that she had seen Janie the Thursday before the party, and that Janie had some kind of black area near her left eye. Virginia said that a girl named Teresa, who worked in the Sunset restaurant in Marshall, had seen Janie on Friday before she died and had also noted the black area around her eye. Virginia said that she had been told by another friend, Kathy, that Janie had told a girl on the school bus a couple weeks before her death that she had been hit by her father. According to Virginia, the little girl on the bus had seen bruises. Virginia also talked about an incident some months ago when Janie was, had been hurt by her dad and had lived away from home. Virginia stated that Janie had wanted to move in with her, so I guess she was close with Janie, but she stayed some time with this person named Kathy. So she actually stayed with Kathy. Virginia said that she was tired of being called, so evidently she's been receiving calls from Ron and Mona Ward, which are Janie's parents, and said Ron had made a comment to her to the effect of keeping her son off the streets. And she said the Wards had told her that the injuries to Janie received had come from some type of whiplash effect, and it had taken a strong man to do it to her. This was all according to Virginia, allegedly, from what, Ron and Mona were saying. So after this conversation, Beach went to interview the Kathy person that Virginia mentioned, and she said that Janie had received a severe beating from her father about 2 months before this all happened. And Kathy said that Janie had walked to a neighbor's home and called Kathy, and that Janie's mother had had called around asking where Janie was. And they ended up according to Kathy, they did go to the sheriff's office. They took pictures and they turned over this evidence of this beating to the social services. Evidently, Kathy said that Janie stayed in her home for about 4 days after this, that Kathy said she personally observed the bruises and swollen areas around Janie's cheek and eye. She said Janie's hair had been pulled as well, like pulled out. Also that Janie's father, after this happened, was sent into treatment, and that Janie was later returned to her home. So Kathy indicated that she was very close to Janie. She said that Janie wasn't quite the same after this happened, and she thought that Janie kind of hid her problems just because of the whole small town, everybody in your business type of situation going on.
And that sounds like that could totally be possible.
Yes. And I know that, like, this is in the case file. I don't think that this has anything to necessarily do with anything that happened to Janie that night. But evidently the police were collecting all this evidence, but it does have to do with the fact that Ron had mentioned that she had bruising on her face, and evidently that bruising had been, some type of bruising had been there before she died. So I think that's what the police were kind of honing in on. It does go further. So later on that day, after he interviewed Kathy, Beach and Lafferty interviewed the Teresa person at the restaurant, and she stated that she spent time with Janie that Friday of her death, before her death. She said Janie had gone riding around with a person named Houston. She said Janie was very happy. She didn't mention the party or any plans that she had. Teresa did see black around Janie's eye, and she had kind of thought that it was kind of like mascara, so it wasn't it wasn't a lot, but she thought it was just some smeared mascara. But Janie tried to kind of rub it off, and it didn't come off. Like, it wasn't makeup after all. But I feel like the police are just kind of trying to outline if there were any marks on Janie prior to the party. So the reenactment was done, he notes, with 5 of the party goers, but not on the Ward property. They couldn't get in touch with Steve Ward that day to get permission to go out without getting a warrant, and they weren't going to get the warrant from the Judge Patterson person, notated. And the file later on dated November 20th, so we're looking at 2 months after her death. There is a 14-page phone transcript between Investigator Beach and then Ron Ward. And Ron outlines first that he and Steve Ward were like brothers. But now Steve, and this is according to Ron, was acting weird and telling all kinds of stories. And this is all Ron's word. According to Ron, Steve was in Marshall the night of the party. Also, he states that Ron, the driver of the truck, so we're not talking about, like, this gets confusing. the driver of the truck was evidently he was related to Steve as well. So he was telling Beach that Ron, who drove Janie to the party and back, was Steve's brother-in-law. So they discussed that. This was a surprise to Beach, because he continued to kind of ask Ron, like, okay, so they're really related. Like, he kind of said it like numerous times in the interview. So that was something that was mentioned. So a lot of relationships happening here. Then
very small town, very much so.
Yes, like all of these little connections going on. Then Ron tells Beach that Janie's pinstripe shirt was seen by the ambulance people and that it disappeared along with her underwear. So he's stating that, to his knowledge, the ambulance people also saw this pinstripe shirt. And then all of a sudden, so he's thinking she was not wearing underwear. That was not, that was discussed, and that will be outlined a little bit later on. But he's saying that her underwear went missing. So he's like, this pinstripe shirt and this underwear is missing. He also stated to Inspector Beach. Now, this was very weird. And he stated that the ambulance place, like the people that owned the ambulance, so their house, evidently they kept all the records at their house for the ambulance service.
And that they're at their house?
Yes, evidently.
That's interesting.
It is very interesting. And again, I try to think, okay, this is 1989.
Yeah.
Small town.
Yeah.
Like, their records were literally kept in their house. So he states that the ambulance place was broken into, and that he went on to give Beach some more names, I guess, and Beach kind of would set Ward, like, he was kind of trying to talk to him. So he was saying, because Ron was telling, I guess, Beach self-proclaimed hearsay information. Does that make sense? Like, it was all just kind of, he would hear stuff and then he was just relaying what he heard. Beach did state the interviews, in the interviews they were focused on were two boys that saw Janie fall. And so he's trying to outline who they were directly talking to. So he said that two boys saw Janie fall, plus anybody that moved her in any way. So they were really honing in on the people that actually saw something. Ron went on to state that the ambulance people told them the white-blue pinstripe shirt was on Janie along with the t-shirt, but that her bottom half appeared to be washed clean, but not her top half. And that the underwear and pinstripe shirt didn't make it to Dr. Malik, but only the jeans with the rolled up cigarettes, and the black shirt made it to, like, Dr. Malik. So Ron was trying to say that it was presenting her as a certain image. So, like, he was upset about...
Okay. Yeah.
And I get what he was saying, but I guess he wasn't liking, because in
the rolled up cigarettes, it was regular nicotine cigarettes, right?
That is what was stated, and nothing else indicates anything else. Yeah. So, but I guess he was just upset because in his mind's eye, she did not own a shirt like that. Yeah. So it's just the way that she was presented down to Dr. Malik. Beach asked Ron about a woman named Sylvia, whom evidently had told a story that Janie was killed down at the river, and it was planned, and which is why she was all wet and sandy. So this was kind of being discussed as like a rumor going around. Ron himself said that Sylvia was a woman that was implicated in a murder in 1982, and that he didn't know her himself. Like, this was just kind of some hearsay going around. I know. I'm like, so all of these little hearsay and little rumors and little tidbits are just all peppered in with these conversations and write-ups. Beach mentioned he was trying to track Sylvia down but couldn't find her. Ron discussed again that Steve, so he brought up Steve, knows what happened, and then another boy said no one helped Janie, and then Ron mentioned again about the girls who didn't like Janie. So he was just in their phone conversation bringing that up again. Beach told Ron currently he was trying to be very thorough and get interviews and tapes to Malik so Dr. Malik could tell him what happened, or at least what didn't happen. Ron said that Dr. Malik told him that the injuries that Janie sustained could not have happened from the way she fell off the porch. That Dr. Malik said what happened to her was called the Hackler extension, which is it's like a super force extension, and it means to extend beyond a certain point or something. He said her head had been from her cervical and her, like, severed, I guess. Like, her head wasn't attached. He said that the head had came off. So it was
almost like a decapitation, but within your body?
I guess he's saying that it was like that bad of a force. It said He said the head came back with such great force it was actually cracked the first vertebrae against the second vertebrae with force that was great. He said it came from front and said the cause was like just a real big force to the head. The head was actually loose and there was nothing. There was he said there was a bruise in the shape of a 1-inch diameter, like a cylinder would make, maybe a pipe or something. So this is information that Ron is saying that Dr. Malik had given him. And he mentioned, Dr. Malik said that a rock wouldn't give her that bruise and it wouldn't be like circular or whatever. It wouldn't be that round object. He said the force to do this damage is like someone sitting in a car that's still and then you get hit by another car going 70 miles per hour. It was like a large whiplash effect. Ron stated Janie was 204 pounds, so she was a big girl, and whatever happened took big force, according to what Malik told him. And then that was kind of the end of their conversation. So, yes. So this is according to Ron. In another note, and this would be dated the next day, this was November 21st, they did conduct more videotaped recreations from the crime scene with a couple of the additional people that I guess he couldn't get on the 20th. And so he did meet with Jamie and Kim. Those were part of the people. So they did help in the recreation. He notes that he did set up a tentative meeting with Dr. Malik the next day at 1 for Malik to review these tapes. And at this meeting, a rep said, he showed up and for the meeting, and Dr. Malik's rep had come out and said that Dr. Malik had been subpoenaed to court and wasn't sure when he would come back. So the meeting was then set up for the 28th. So it should have been the 22nd, but then it was pushed off to the 28th. The next note that was written in the file was a meeting with Dr. Malik. So they didn't actually end up meeting until it's dated December 5th. So Beach shows Malik the videotape interviews and recreations, and after reviewing the tapes, Dr. Malik stated that Janie's injuries and death could have been consistent with the description of the fall. So he's saying it could be in line with that. Handling and the sounds that were made by the victim described by the witnesses. Dr. Malik said that if the investigation revealed Janie had not been pushed and the interviews had revealed that she had not been pushed, his eventual ruling on the case would be accidental death. Furthermore, the videotapes Dr. Malik discussed several points concerning the case. So these were Dr. Malik's points, okay? So because of the rules with the state, so when you file the request for the whole file, they don't automatically give you the actual autopsy. But he did notate about 9 things from his point of view to kind of clear up some things. So he states, no evidence of recent sexual intercourse was discovered and Janie was not pregnant per the autopsy. Damage to the vertebrae was caused by the head snapping back and the skull hitting the second vertebrate. That was point 2. Point 3, Dr. Malik said he never told Ron Ward that the injuries could not have been received in the described fall. Dr. Malik said he did tell Mr. Ward the neck injury was caused by a snap similar to whiplash effect, but that the injury was consistent with the situation described. Dr. Malik, in point 4, says he telephoned Ron Ward in reference to an article in the Democrat newspaper dated December 28th. Mr. Ward said that he did not say these things in the article, and we'll kind of go into that real fast, and that the press had misconstrued what he said. So in that article, basically, Ron discussed with the press or all the things in that article that Dr. Malik is mentioning, all the things that he had told Beach about the different clothes, he just straight told like that was exactly in this article. So this article is portraying things exactly as Ron Ward had told Beach. Okay. So, and then there, of course, Beach was trying to set Ron straight. And then Dr. Malik was also trying to be like, that's not what I said. And then Ron is saying, well, that's not what I said. So I guess the newspaper people made this up, according to Ron. Number 5, the 5th point from Dr. Malik, the bruises on Janie's back was a recent one. However, he had no particular significance in relation to the injuries that caused her death. So he was saying that she did have a bruise on her back, but it wasn't related to this injury or would have caused any type of death. Dr. Malik was advised by 2 witnesses that Janie was on the front porch with a group of people that smoked 2 marijuana cigarettes. Dr. Malik checked toxicology and determined that they never checked Janie's blood for any, like, the THC content. The reason given was that no urine samples had been available. Dr. Malik then instructed them to recheck her blood for THC. So basically, his first toxicology, I guess, came back negative, but then he came back and said that he actually did not check for marijuana use. It was agreed to
That's interesting, but did he not have the notes that there was reportedly marijuana at the party?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he had all those notes from Beach, like all the things, and then he also had the notes to check all that. And we've kind of gone into
kind of highly
concerning,
irresponsible for a coroner, or especially somebody that's the head of
the whole state.
Arkansas, the head of the whole state's crime lab.
Yes, and we talked about, last episode we kind of talked about Dr. Malik. This was many problems. The boys on the track. We went into great detail about Dr. Malik's stuff, and maybe we'll even do a full episode on Dr. Malik someday. But he would have only have been with the state for a couple more years after this happened. I mean, his work was being very much reviewed, and it was a problem, and it will be a problem in this case that we'll kind of discuss when we wrap up, kind of wrapping up things. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but Dr. Malik was definitely a problem. And he obviously, they did not conduct all the testing that they were requested to do. So they agreed to retest all the bodily fluids. And Dr. Malik did not feel it was possible for the victim to have had some sort of residual existing injury that could have been aggravated by the fall. So he was saying, basically, he didn't believe that she was already injured. He did not see that. And Dr. Malik suggested a grand jury could be impaneled and could probably put the case to rest by answering any questions still outstanding. So at the end of the report, Beach states he went to the sheriff's office to send the request, I guess, back to the crime lab for Janie's clothes to be listed on a sheet and resubmitted to the lab for testing on Friday, December 1st. So he did that. So, yes. So that was the 5th. Well, that stated that it was the 5th.
That's a lot. That's a lot to process.
It is a lot to process. It's a lot. There's a tiny bit left. So on the 11th, he did re-interview Leslie, which was the person that Janie had stayed with there the Friday night before the party. Beach was questioning Leslie mainly concerning the clothes, because that was such an issue with Ron. So he was trying to get all of these questions answered. So Leslie and her mother came in, and they recalled they found some underwear that wasn't Leslie's, that was dirty. And so Leslie's mother just went ahead and washed them. She just took them and washed them, and they were left behind at their house, which would account for the missing underwear. And again, we kind of talked about, Leslie, they probably weren't the same size. In fact, Leslie, she went into think, okay, well, she might not have asked Leslie to borrow because she might not have thought that they would fit, but she did borrow a t-shirt. So they, probably weren't the same size. So Janie was still...
Well, I'll tell you this. I might borrow your t-shirt or your jeans, Lisa,
Maybe,
but I'm not
my
borrowing
underwear.
your underwear. No,
Are you
I draw
sure?
the line. I draw the line at underwear. And probably that's the case.
Yeah, and probably, we talked about how, this was September. She had gone to school all day, this was the next day. So that to me lines up with her wearing Leslie's shirt and her jeans and no underwear.
And no underwear. Yeah, me too.
That totally said that. Totally makes sense. She also mentioned, so this is going back to Leslie, she mentioned that Janie hadn't called her parents because, Leslie felt that at that time that they didn't have a phone. For some reason, she was thinking that the parents didn't have a phone at that time. And then more on the clothes. So, Beach did ask what the rumors were going on at school, what, if she had heard anything, and all that Leslie said, I guess, was that someone was mentioning that Janie was raped. So that was kind of the word on the street. And of course, Beach knows that wasn't accurate from the autopsy results. That same day that he's re-interviewing Leslie, Beach re-interviews another partygoer named Sarah because she had also seen Janie fall. Sarah just reiterated that she wasn't aware of any problems Janie had with any girls, other than there was evidently a girl named Rachel whom Janie had actually been really good friends with, and they had had a falling out. And I think we had gone into this in the first episode. So I think that kind of goes back. But she also confirmed a girl named Tiffany wasn't at the party. And Sarah had kind of mentioned in her first interview that she was with this Tiffany person because Sarah was actually at the party with someone that she wasn't supposed to be with. Evidently a boy.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, so like I said, the very first episode, we need a flow chart for all these people.
I know.
To me, that's the most confusing part. It's a lot of he said, she said.
Yes.
Well, this happened, but wait, no, this happened. And, it's tragic. And it probably is very traumatizing to those kids that were there that night.
Definitely. She, yes. And Sarah just kind of reiterated that Sarah mentioned Janie appeared intoxicated when she got there, and Sarah confirmed the time frame because everybody was going on and on about the time frame. So she felt like it was 10 minutes from the time Janie fell to the time that she was being at the bank parking lot was maybe 10 minutes. And she also confirmed that what she saw on Janie was a rock t-shirt. So on January 11th of 90, so this would have been...
Wait. So okay. A rock t-shirt. That's the third different description, or is that the third different t-shirt description?
Some people said it looked like a rock t-shirt, a black t-shirt. It was described, Leslie did say it was her, what was it, Def Leppard shirt.
Oh, okay.
So rock is in rock and roll.
Okay.
Not a picture of a rock.
No, I figured it was a rock and roll t-shirt. I just thought that someone had described it a little differently earlier, but I was not correct on that. I know what a rock t-shirt is. That's all I wear.
I was about to say, she was wearing your favorite outfit.
Yeah, that's true. I do have a Def Leppard t-shirt.
Yes. So you and her would have been like Twinkies at the party. Okay, so rolling forward. So all of this was still in January or December. Okay, so we're saying, okay, this happened in September. Now it's January 11th of 90. So it's rolled into the new year. Beach notes that he had tried to get another officer Brown to get tapes and materials that Ron Ward supposedly had evidence of that was like conflicting from what they were finding. So he was asking this Officer Brown to collect this material, okay? After some time, Ron Ward, stated that he would not give over his evidence, and that he had heard that different prosecutor, I don't know if like there was I don't understand. The other prosecutor was a different name. This was Prosecutor Foster, was going to close the case. Beach met with Foster and they reviewed what they had and concluded, without any other further evidence to look over, because Ward wasn't giving anything, that the case did not show any foul play. Foster said he would look over everything and review for a final time, and then he would decide to close the case after that. So this was being decided in January. So July 17th of 91, there was a notation of the file. Beach made notes to the file that Ron had requested the return of Janie's clothing. So it kind of took Officer Beach a little bit because he had court dates and he was out, but that the investigator did send the clothing or send a note to get the sheriff's office to take a look and deliver to Beach. So, yes. So that was the only notation. So this was 91. There was another notation. So the last notation in this file was this was kind of interesting. So a person named Michelle had stated that this lady that used to work for the school, she was a special education teacher at Marshall, and evidently she had told Michelle, this Michelle person, that she had overheard Sarah state that she had pushed Janie out of the back of the pickup truck, supposedly because of an argument over a boy named Brian. A punch.
No, wait, she was out of it before she got to the pickup truck.
Yes, so this is just a room. Well, this is just being told to Beach, I guess. Does that make sense? From a lady named Michelle. So Beach decided to actually talk to this person. So he tracked down the lady that Michelle was talking about, and the teacher, and I'm not going to put her name in here, but she came back and said she did not overhear such. She had no clue why Michelle would say that she had overheard such, but that there had evidently been all kinds of rumors about Janie's death going around the school, and that, she had heard rumors, but she never heard anything about such. So he was just notating in the file that about this rumor. He was just trying to kind of follow these rumor leads and dispel them. So the only items remaining in the file at all, it was a weird statement from some person named Jerry about a fight her ex-husband had picked with Ron Ward in April of 1989 that allegedly had to do with Ron pulling a gun on her ex, but she states that she didn't.
Oh, wow.
I know, this is so weird, but she didn't believe that happened, and she felt like her ex was a liar and picked fights with family. So I don't know why this was in the file. Ron obviously had nothing to do with Janie's death. That's inexplicable,
Well, they were following every lead that they could.
Yeah, but it's just interesting that I guess they were just trying to. I really don't know. I know that Ron was talking to. In fact, there are newspaper clippings. He was talking to the press. He was upset. He wanted answers. He was collecting his own evidence and such. So I guess they were following all of the leads because Ron was kind of leading an investigation that was conflicting to their investigation, like everything that they were being told by the witnesses. So that's probably why that was in the file. That's the only thing I can guess. So everything that I've discussed is in this file. There is so much more, but that is the end of this information that I have. There is so much more going to happen with this file over the course of the next, this ends in 91. So over the course of the next 20 years, there will be 2 more autopsies.
Oh, wow. That is insane.
Yes. So
that's a total of 3 autopsies.
There will be a total of 3 autopsies by the time that this is finished. There will be another special investigation. So for now, that is all of the information in this case file. So what I'm waiting on is there will be thousands of more pages coming from the state police that they're working on, but they have to, they have to review it before they release it. And so I will be getting copies, and then further, when I get these copies, we'll be outlining that information, and I'll kind of be summarizing that.
Right.
So
wow.
Yes. Isn't that crazy?
And I think, I think stopping at a part 3, we're not doing it justice. So eventually we will have the part 4, just like with Ruby Stapleton, we'll eventually have a part 3, hopefully before the end of the summer.
Yeah,
so we'll see. Yeah, I have an article on Ruby coming out here in a couple of weeks, and
awesome.
It's with Encyclopedia of Arkansas. So. Yes, and so these cases, sometimes we will revisit them, and this is one of those that we will definitely revisit as things happen and as people, there are other podcasts, other TV shows that have gotten a hold of the Janie Ward case, and if you want to find out more, they're out there. People, people have their own theories about what may have or whatever, what may have happened. I just think it's a very tragic thing that probably caused a lot of trauma for the people involved, all the people.
Yes. And I think, unfortunately, it was just kind of from what I can see in this case file so far, my thoughts are, it was super tragic. I think that either one or two things happened. She was either poisoned by that rubbing alcohol, that there was either some type of underlying condition that no one knew about with her, that maybe it was a perfect storm. And then just the perfect storm of teenagers, the woods, being scared about the stupid alcohol and marijuana and not taking care of, getting her, maybe, calling an ambulance, like calling the ambulance. Like, I still have trouble with that. And I know it was a party line, so I guess you can't call the ambulance. Is that right? On a party line?
Now, I'm not sure about that. I really don't know.
That's a question.
I don't know just a whole lot about party lines.
And I know they didn't have cell phones.
Had one at one time.
Yeah, I guess you just can't, but you would think, I don't know. I know that they were panicking. They were doing the best they thought they could, but, it's just, I just feel like, obviously, I feel like in today's day and time, I don't feel like this would have happened.
Right. No, I don't think
so
either.
For multiple reasons, but, which I'm glad about. I don't think that this would happen, but, anyway, I hate it for the Ward family, and that there were so many rumors, the rumor mill just really whatever. So, anywho, more to be discussed at a later time. So I will be diving in to the murder of Sandra Williams is coming up for me, and I know you're doing. You're doing the
what?
Ozark Superstitions.
I'm doing Ozark Superstitions soon. Yes, definitely. Yes. I've got a couple of other things that I'm going to announce that I'm going to do, but I'm trying to debate which one. So I put like a listener poll on Facebook just to kind of, get a little bit of direction. I'm starting my summer break. Yay! That's the best part of being a teacher or professor. Right now, it's kind of crunch time, and people have already noticed that, we haven't had an episode, in a week. And I had one of the listeners go, "Did I miss it?" And I'm like, "No, we just took a little bit of a break, just trying to." Yeah, we've been busy. Yeah.
It's So we're going to be more, that's, I think it's awesome that they're missing us, though.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I do want to announce that the Folk Fest, Folk Monster Fest, Folk, sorry.
You're tired.
Folk. I am so tired, yes. The Falk Monster Festival is this Saturday, which is April the 27th.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, yes. I think they're showing the movie tomorrow night.
Is that the Boggy Creek movie?
I think they're showing the movie tomorrow night, which is Friday the 26th. And then Saturday, the 27th, will be the festival. Now, I really wish we were going this year.
Me too.
Our kids have prom, so
and I'm out of town.
And Lisa's out of town. She's in St. Louis, so it just didn't work out. Mm-hmm. So, but we're hoping that we get to do some of these things really soon. Yes,
we're going to do some on. Yeah, we're gonna be mixing it up, people, and Amber's gonna be on summer break. We're just gonna be like totally potting for all your
totally
enjoyment.
Totally
potting. It's like, do you like that?
Oh my gosh!
Like okay, we have received our very first listener mail, and I was so thrilled when I went to the PO box. But we will be touching base with you all. Thank you so much, Dawn.
Yes,
and appreciate it so much. And also some, I don't have them in front of me, but we'll discuss it, and we're going to give a shout out, and we'll be sending you mail back with your decals. So be on the lookout. So please mail us, send us a postcard, drop us a letter, whatever. PO Box 120, Searcy, Arkansas 72145. We love you guys. Being awesome. Check us out on the
awesome.
YouTubes. Oh, subscribe.
Yes,
subscribe.
We're on YouTube now. We got a realistic dose of YouTube when we first started. Not everybody loves our banter. We found out very quickly.
We had one. Well, I will say this. So we have to say this. There was one particular comment that said something like, it was very sexist. It was like, this is why I typically...
This is why women don't podcast.
Yes. Yeah,
it was like, need to podcast.
Yeah, it was like, whenever I hear women talking, I just turn it off. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, seriously, dude? Like, some of our OG dudes love us. So anyway,
I know. I know
we're not for everybody. So
no,
we're not everybody's flavor, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think it was hard. I think it was harder for me because we had gotten a lot of positive feedback from people listening on Spotify and Apple, and then we put it on YouTube, and it really starts getting, it really starts going viral and getting a lot of listens and watches and whatever, and then some of the comments aren't nice. So I put on there, I'm like, hey, banter warning. We do banter during our podcast. Yeah. But I think what we're going to do is we try to kind of restructure and revamp things this summer. We are going to save the banter for the end because I know some of you really like it, and you appreciate listening to us, just rattle on about silly things. So we're not going to get rid of it completely. We are just going to save it for the end. So probably from now, what is this, episode 31? Probably from now on, it'll be straight to the episode. And then at the end, we'll have some talk and, say some funny things and talk about pie and the facts of life and all the things that everyone loves for us to do. So
I enjoy the bad, mean comments, and eventually we're going to do kind of like a mean comments episode where I read them all, and I enjoy
the mean tweets on Jimmy Kimmel.
I love it. I just
don't say that, or we'll get more. So people have us read them.
Well, no, let's put this in perspective. So we had 2,300 views on YouTube. Over 50 likes, okay, and only 6 mean comments. So let's put this in perspective. There were lots of sweet comments and like I said, over 50 likes, 2,300 views. I thought it was good. It was very good. So anyway,
yeah. Well, and I told you this when we first started. Every week it seemed like for a while, and still today, we learn something new and we figure something out. Like tonight, having all my kids here with nobody to help me babysit, we still got the podcast done. So so every problem, issue we've had, we've worked it out. So, but we will get better as we keep going, and hopefully, in a few months, we'll just be up there with the morbid girls. No, I'm just kidding. Probably not. We like them a lot, though. We definitely do.
Like them.
Yeah,
I like I don't really this is terrible. This is going to sound terrible. I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to Morbid, and I listen to Catherine Townsend, and I don't know. You listen to more podcasts than me.
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah, I have an extensive list of podcasts that I listen to.
Well, I tried to listen to the what is it? The True Crime Garage Men, whatever.
Right. I don't listen to that one a lot.
I did. I think I listened to one of their episodes because I was like, it was like John Bonet or whatever. And anyway, John Bonet Ramsey, if you like that kind of thing, they do it like a 3-parter. But I think it was 3-parter. But yeah, they talk about beer. Yeah.
Well, see, I mean, they talk about beer like we talk about McDonald's pies.
I know.
Yeah.
So it's like, everybody has a flavor out there. So I like how there's so many different podcasts for everybody. So there's something for everybody. But definitely you can go on YouTube even to watch some clips about Janie Ward, some news items. I think there was like an ABC special and such that, yeah.
Oh, and also
FYI.
Jason Peterson, I think he recreated it for Channel 7 at some point too. Maybe I think it was like the 15th anniversary, something like that. I think that's on YouTube that you can watch.
Yes.
So,
yeah, didn't he fall off the porch?
With a pillow. He recreated that.
I didn't really understand the point of that, but that was very interesting. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, wasn't he the 7 on your side guy, Jason Peterson?
Know.
I think he was. 7 on your side.
Yeah, 7 on your side.
Hey, I bet we're the new 7 on your side. When people have unexplained things happening, they just call us. We're unexplained on your side.
Yes, we are. And the Sandra Williams, one of Sandra's friends. So Sandra was murdered, and I believe it was in the late 80s, and I'll be covering that. But we're going to be that was one of our listeners that reached out. And so we do appreciate you all reaching out and especially telling us stories that are important to you. And we do want to cover them. So continue to reach out to us because we're here for you. So we're Unexplained Arkansas on your side, as Amber said.
Yes, definitely.
So Facebook, Instagram, the Gmail, Unexplained Arkansas at Gmail. So just be watching for all the stuff.
People are sick of us. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, well, that's it.
Don't make me cough.
All right, well, that's it. That's all we have for tonight. So thank you very much for being with us, and we will see you again really soon. All right, bye.
Love ya. Bye.